Hey YouTubers, welcome to the channel. I'm Tony the Technician, and today we're going to be going into a new series on the Harbor Freight website where I'm going to go into each section of the website. So today specifically we're going to be looking at the electrical tools, and in the next video we may do plumbing and then ratchets and then sockets, and we're going to be going over the top rated ones. So just keep in mind that these aren't going to be necessarily the best tools in the section or in the category, but they're going to be the most popular and the most sold or reviewed ones. So this isn't necessarily the best. This is just what people are primarily buying at Harbor Freight in each section. So I didn't want to do electrical and just have a bunch of DVOMs or just a bunch of heat shrinks. So I tried to pick the top rated things and a variety of everything within the electrical category. So just keep that in mind. So first up, we have heat shrink here. The most popular one is going to be this marine heat shrink over here. It's a little bit more expensive than your standard heat shrink, but it has an adhesive inside of it, which is going to be a little bit more weather resistant, keep water and other chemicals from getting inside and causing corrosion and things like that. So it's a little bit better stuff. I haven't had any issues with it. I've used quite a bit of this stuff, and also keep in mind the marine heat shrink, the one with the adhesive, not only is it going to be a little bit more expensive, a little bit over $1 more expensive, but you're also getting much less. So like the other set, you're getting 127 piece without the adhesive, and the adhesive one you're getting 42. But I prefer the marine style over the standard, but it also depends on what you're working with. That is actually one item that I do have experience with, and I've had good experiences with them. Keep in mind that not everything in these videos I'm going to have personal experience with, but anything that I do, I will let you guys know. And then if you guys have a different experience with them, whether it's good or bad, please drop it down in the comments for the other viewers. Next up is going to be their watertight connectors. So they have a few different ones here. Most reviewed one, or the top rated one, is going to be the 18 to 22 gauge watertight heat shrink butt connectors. It's a 10-piece set for $2. So they aren't exactly cheap. They're a little bit cheaper than what you'll find in other places, but not by much. It is still just a 10-piece set, but these are great if you don't have heat shrink. This will help with that, and then you can always double up as well. And then, like I said, they do have other sizes. Then they have a 30-piece variety set as well. But as far as the top rated one, it is going to be the 18 to 22 gauge. Next up, they have a wide variety of zip ties. This is the most popular one. The 11-inch, they have many different lengths and sizes, and then you can also get an assortment bundle as well. I have experience with these, and it all depends on what you're using them for. If you're using them like in an engine bay, depending on where you're using them, they might not be the best, because these aren't like extremely high quality zip ties. Some people have issues, every once in a while you'll get a dud where it's not, holding, but 98% of the time I don't have an issue with these. No, they're not the best zip ties out there. They don't have the metal tab inside or anything like that. Those are obviously going to be much more expensive. There's some out there that are rated for much higher heats, things like that. But if you're just looking for a good affordable zip tie, this is the most common one with 7,490 reviews, and that is the 11-inch zip ties, and this is a 100-pack. And they have like 5, 8, like I said before, a big variety. Tensile strength of 46 pounds. Working temperature max is 185 degrees down to negative 40 degrees. And keep in mind that if you're going to be using zip ties around excessive heat over those temperatures, there are zip ties like that available, or you could always go with the metal version as well. But as far as Harbor Freight, this is their #1 seller. Next up is something I do have experiences with again, but not something that I prefer. This is their most sold wire protector. They really don't have anything else. They have other sizes, like they have the 1/2 inch and 3/8. The 1/4 inch is the most sold. It's 14 feet long. It's got 897 reviews, and this stuff is okay. Like if you're wiring up a trailer or something like that where it's not around heat, it'll be just fine for quite a while. If they're around heat, I cannot stand this stuff because it becomes extremely brittle, and if you ever have to change wiring or fix wiring, this stuff literally just breaks apart and falls apart everywhere. There are better options out there. I use a lot of nylon braided sleeving to protect my wiring. Not only does it, depending on what you purchase, help with interference between certain types of wires. It also protects it from heat and other things, and then you don't have to worry about it becoming brittle and falling apart either. So this does have its place, but keep in mind around high heat, it's definitely not the best. Here you can see temperature range from -30 to 200 degrees, but if it's even at 165 degrees just often, it's going to become brittle pretty quickly. Next up is going to be their wire stripper and crimper. I wanted to mention two of them just because they're two different styles. The first one is the self-adjusting. This isn't one that I have experience with. I have the Irwin version, so it's basically the same thing. There's 100 different brands selling the same thing out there. This is the Pittsburgh. It's $10, so it's very affordable. At the bottom, you have different styles of crimpers for different sizes, and then just having a set of self-adjusting wire strippers and it just makes it extremely easy, especially like if you're in a tight area. As long as you can get the tool in there, you don't have to really move the tool, you just have to squeeze the handles, so that makes it very easy. So there you can see they have the teeth on this side that will hold the wire, and then the stripper over here. So definitely a good design, and one that I've used in the past quite a bit, just not this specific one. So here we're looking at the Pittsburgh 7-inch wire stripper and cutter, and this is a different design. Obviously, the other one was a crimper and stripper. This one is just for cutting and stripping. There is no crimping portion on this. It is spring loaded. It's good for wires between 10 and 20 gauge and shears 832 and 1032 screws. Here you can see the pass-throughs for these screws right here next to the joint. Your stripping portion, you got some teeth up here for grabbing, and then it is spring loaded and there's a lock. So, for $6, I think it's a good set. It's got 98% and 3,472 reviews. I did forget to mention this one has 1,091 reviews and is at 98%. Next up is the Ames Instruments non-contact voltage tester. Now, this isn't something that you always want to rely on when working with the electrical in your house. This is a very cheap one, but they are handy tools to have to just, if you're going to work on something, you can quickly check. Now, you don't always want to just rely on this depending on what you're working with, but this can be a good tool to check for power. So safety tests voltage in outlets, light fixtures, and circuit breakers, and at $5, I think that's a good deal. These can become pretty advanced. For a $5 one, you're just going to get your basic features. This has 96% and 2,934 reviews. Especially if a tool is new or just released, it may be a fantastic deal, but it hasn't had its time in order to gain reviews, so we may do this again next year to see what has all changed. So here's just a little bit of information on it if you'd like to pause and take a look. Next up is the electrical tape. This is something I have experience with. This is a debatable one. All electrical tape, depending on its scenario, can be a pain in the butt, but electrical tape is a great accessory. So anytime I'm doing electrical, I try to solder with heat shrink or solder connectors or butt connectors and heat shrink. But there are those times that you need electrical tape every once in a while, and some people use electrical tape all the time. The thing with electrical tape, which this one is very common for, in cold temperatures, it starts to become brittle. In high temperatures, it becomes extremely gooey and stretchy and starts to basically fall apart. It doesn't hold. Some electrical tape is much better. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but there are higher quality electrical tape that is less likely to become brittle under certain conditions and gooey and elasticy under other conditions. But for $7, you're getting 60 feet of 3/4 inch, and it's a 10-pack. This does have 98% rating, and it has 2,226 reviews. Next up is the Centec. They do have many other DVOMs available through Ames. Most of their other ones are Ames, and then they have another Centec. One's $80, but this one is just under $22, and it is their most popular. It has a 93% rating and has 2,050 reviews. This is the 11 functions, so it's not going to have the most functions. It's not going to be, the top of the line here, but it is the most purchased one. It is very affordable, and, it's going to give you a little bit more information than this pocket one here for just a couple dollars more. It's not big and bulky, so it's still extremely easy to carry. It's a good one starting out. Now, obviously, if you're in a field where you use DVOMs daily, this probably isn't going to be something that you look at. You're going to want to get yourself a good fluke. I have a fluke, and I also have an off-brand that I use here at home, and doing comparisons between the two, they're both extremely reliable. But obviously, if you're looking for something affordable, Harbor Freight has a lot to offer, from very affordable ones like this at $22 all the way up to, you know, basically $100, and you're going to get a lot more functions and a little bit better accuracy, and probably a little bit higher cat rating. This one is, normally you would see the cat rating on here. I am not seeing much of anything, but it does have a 3.5-inch digital LCD display, data hold, automatic zero adjust, AC DC voltage, current, frequency, resistance, transistor and diode, capacitance, temperature, and audible continuity or continuity, whichever way you want to pronounce it. 2 36-inch test probes and 1 36-inch temperature probe. I guess every single one that I've ever looked at, I've always seen a cat rating, even on my off-brand one, so it's weird to not see that on there. If you guys know what the cat rating is on this, or if it's just not rated, I thought they had to be rated, but I could be wrong there. This isn't one that I have personal experience with, so I still think it's a good option for $22 if you're just one that needs a DVOM for quick checks. Next up is the Butane Micro Torch. Very handy tool to have. I have a couple different brands, not necessarily this one, but they're all fairly affordable. Some do get quite expensive, but a lot of them are around this price range. This one has a 92% rating with 1,831 reviews at $15. Simple enough. It's a very basic tool. You know, you have your lock over here, your trigger, you fill it from the bottom, butane, and you got yourself a little mini torch right there. Very handy for if you deal with soldering or heat shrink or anything like that. These are a very handy tool to have. So 92% at 1,831 ratings. And then last up on the list, number 10 should be, besides we had 2 wire strippers, is the helping hands. They do have a couple different variations of the helping hands. This one is very cheap, but if you do any sort of soldering, they do have big platforms out there. I have a little bit better. I used to have this one and use it. I took the magnifying glass off. It wasn't really necessary for the work that I did with it. It may start to tip over. The base is weighted. It's got a pretty decent weight to it, but depending on what you're working on, it does kind of flop around. So if you got to set something on the base, it's no big deal. It all depends on how you have it adjusted. You can see here the alligator clips and everything are adjustable here, and then you can slide it, and then you got another joint down here. So there's a lot of adjustability here. It's pretty basic when it comes to helping hands. There are very complex, large setups out there, but if you just do a little bit of soldering, and you ever tried doing a lot of soldering just freehanding, it can get annoying, and sometimes just being able to put the wires in there and just focus on soldering, these can be fantastic. One thing to keep in mind is the alligator clips can damage wires. The teeth are fairly sharp in order to hold the wiring, but sometimes when soldering, heat dissipates through the wire and can make that insulation very vulnerable or soft, so you have to be careful. Sometimes I would slide small hose or like rubber caps or whatever I could over the alligator clips to prevent those teeth from really digging into the wire. But overall, this is $6. It is rated 95%, has 1,512 reviews. So I tried to include a wide variety of different electrical tools that they have at Harbor Freight. If you guys want to see something more specific, like obviously we didn't go over like insulated screwdrivers, but I plan on doing a screwdriver video. So depending on how those perform, those may be included. So I tried to break this down, but just keep in mind that some items that you would expect to see in here may be included in another video, so just stay tuned for those videos, and I really hope you guys enjoy the new series. So stay tuned, and we'll have a lot more to come. If you guys enjoyed this, please make sure to smash that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below of your guys' thoughts on some of these, if you have any experiences with them, whether they're good or bad. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. See you guys next time.